Welcome back to the American Dystopia, everyone. Let's talk about jobs and how there aren't any.
So I've been unemployed for about a year and a couple of months now, and I decided to just make the decision and just give up as far as applying to jobs. For context, I've been applying to jobs about 100 a day, just to give a ballpark estimate there, and I don't get any callbacks, right? And I want to say I'm a marketable person. I have a bachelor's, a master's, I have military experience, I have almost 15 years of solid working experience in supply.
So I graduated high school in 2004, I know, long time ago. But back in 2004, if you had a degree, it actually meant something, right? Like, it made you super competitive. But now just everyone has a degree. And our colleges are a joke. Our education system in general is a joke. They say like over 50% of young Americans now have their reading and math levels of like a fifth grader. That spells doom for society, I feel like. But no, you can't take our education seriously. Anybody can get a bachelor's, anybody can get a master's. As long as you're not too hung over to go to class, you can pretty much get it.
Chain and logistics, that's my background, right? And I'm not having any luck. No callbacks. And the callbacks that I do get, I interview like maybe 2 or 3 times. And yeah, I always get the same email, right? Like they're moving forward with somebody else, or they either are not moving forward with the position, or I get just completely ghosted, right? And I've tried the networking thing, I've tried working with my cousin for this particular one job that's like a crazy remote job that takes you all over the Midwest, because I'm even been applying to jobs outside of Texas here.
So personally, I think one of the biggest problems is with kind of the addiction that Americans have with Indeed and those other sites. This thing is the competition is just too high. Like, you think that you're going against 10, 20 other candidates, but there's some jobs, especially if you're in the tech industry, where like as soon as they drop one job posting, there are hundreds or thousands of people who immediately post a resume, right? And you're dealing with people at so many levels of experience that, here's the thing. If you stand out too much, you're not going to get hired because they expect that you want really good pay. But since everything right now is so AI assisted, they don't need people who are, high experts in a certain subject matter, right? Because they're expensive. Why do that when they can get 2 junior level people and pay them a combined salary that's still less than what they would pay you? And that's a major problem with white collar jobs right now. I worked in logistics and supply as well, and I had military experience as well. And in the time that I was unemployed, it was incredibly hard for me to get a job. I throw a ton of them out there. And not only do you have the problem with the ghost job postings, but the hiring process itself is meant to make you quit. It's weeding people out. But with the last job that I got, right, I was pretty excited about it. I went through 3 different interviews, which I thought was insane. And then when they told me, hey, you know what? Congratulations, you got the job. I was like, great, when do I start? I can come in tomorrow. They're like, well, we're going to start in about 4 or 5 weeks. The thing is, right, nobody can afford that. That's like a sign of luxury. If you can be like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll just go fishing for the next 4 or 5 weeks, practice on doing yoga, do some breathing exercises, really go find myself. Nobody can afford that. It's a cost of living crisis been going on for a few years now. My money would devalue more in that 4 to 5 weeks than the money I'd actually be able to make. As soon as you get paid, go buy gold or bullets, whatever. But yeah, it does feel like you're being jerked around. And that's just the entire thing for everybody right now, right? You can't find a job. It just kind of feels like giving up. Think about that. 20 years ago, if you would have told me that you had put out 100 applications that one day, right, and you've done that for a year, and you still haven't gotten a job, I think that you're insane. I think that you're a liar. But it's common now because you have millions of people who are putting out hundreds of applications a day. The job market's just oversaturated. And not just that, but you have AI bots out there who will screen out your application if it doesn't meet a certain set of criteria. And it doesn't even notify you. So while you think that you're sitting, waiting for a response from this application, the fact is you're not going to get it. It was instantly deleted as soon as you turned it in.
And I interviewed 3 times, and they completely ghosted me. And going on a year now, I basically already lost everything. I already have my 2 vehicles repossessed. I already have a lot of my debts in collections, and my house is about to foreclose here. And even if I were to get a job, like being able to get on my feet, that's gonna be rough. That's gonna be rough. And I know some people are probably gonna say, well, do the bankruptcy. Do the bankruptcy. I filed for bankruptcy about 2 years ago when I had a solid job. Because I made a bunch of mistakes in my 20s with my credit. And it's like I finally got a solid job that pays me 6 figures. And it's like, you know what? Let me file for bankruptcy and clean my shit up. And which I did. And at first it worked out great. But what I didn't foresee was losing my job. And because I lost my job, I was back to square one. Not even back to square one. I dug myself in a deeper hole than I initially was, right?
I think this is a major problem that people don't talk about now as much these days as maybe they should, right? I talk to a lot of old people, and old people have pensions because those are things that used to exist back then because you had something that was called job security. But that's not something that people have now. You don't have job security. You're lucky if you hold your job for 365 days. Either most people are out there monkey branching from one job to another, or you just kind of get laid off or let go or fired, or forced to quit because they take away your benefits, they take away your hours, and you get to the point where it's not covering the bills anymore. So you got to go find a job elsewhere. So this makes it impossible for just the normal, average American person to actually build and think about long term, right? Unless you're working for yourself, and increasingly that's become more difficult to do as cost of living goes up, products become more expensive, so your inventory goes up, interest rates are higher, so then the small loans that you need for your businesses, they become more and more expensive, which means more and more unrealistic, until the point where entrepreneurship is just unrealistic for the American people.
So in order for me to file for bankruptcy again, I gotta wait a couple more years to do that. But here's the thing, like, I saw a video of a guy that was unemployed for far longer than I was, and he was a hell of a lot more marketable than I was. He had better education, went to better schools, had a better work history when it comes to the tech industry that he was involved in, so way better paying jobs than I could ever ask for, right? And it took him about 2 years, maybe 3 years to get a job, and when he finally landed one, he was at a point where he already lost everything, just like me. And he was ecstatic because, his pay was great. He was going to get back on his feet and, just recover from it all. But not even 2-3 months into the job, he ends up getting laid off with a bunch of others of his colleagues, and he's back to square one. I'm not sure if he ended up finding a job after that, but I think that's a reality for a lot of people where you can't even, like, companies are not even loyal to the employees anymore that they hire. If you're not hitting the mark, if you're not in the green, or if you're costing the company money for stuff that they, can facilitate doing without them breaking the bank, they're gonna cut ties with you, man.
Oh yeah. It doesn't really matter how much you produce for a company now. I mean, if they need to cut you, they need to cut you. And like I was saying, I mean, a lot of businesses, if they can go ahead and cut a senior employee or pay 2 people, cumulatively less than that person makes, and they're going to do that, especially the tech industry. But just AI is swallowing up all those jobs. I mean, if you're going into college right now, getting any kind of degree, thinking that you're getting into the tech world, I mean, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Like 10 years ago, it was an outstanding route to take. But right now, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. It's the basket weaving degree of this generation is what it's becoming. And I think that's really going to spread, to different areas of study in different fields as AI has its impact. Because it is, they say it's going to disrupt the world, but truly it's disrupted the job market more than anything else. I mean, these companies that he's talking about, right? Like, they're making more and more money. They're having more and more profits. But the employees, they're not getting paid anymore. And if anything, they have more work to do since they're getting rid of a lot of people and just loading that on, low paid workers, because there's so many people out there looking for the jobs. Everyone's interchangeable at this point. And it's gotten so extreme that the worker themselves, although it's your labor, you have no actual leverage to make sure that your business is going to be retained or that the company will do anything to take care of you.
Since they're not loyal to people anymore in general, you can't even make like financial moves like my dad was able to do, right? My dad bought a home as soon as he got a job, didn't even know if the job was gonna treat him bad, didn't even know if the job was gonna lay him off. No, like he knew the moment he signed and started that job, he knew that it was solid, and he right away walked in and bought a home. You can't even do that nowadays. You can't even buy a car nowadays after you get a job because you're skeptical. You know, you don't know, like, oh shit, what if they lay me off? Like, I cannot rely on sustaining myself and my family with this job because the way the market is right now, they're getting rid of everybody. Like, I believe Amazon is going to be cutting like 30,000 jobs. Can you imagine those people making that much money just getting cut off like that? I mean, they probably saved a ton, don't get me wrong, you know, but there's people that haven't. There's people that, you know, we're getting paid that much and we're probably still struggling to get by. You know, that's the reality for a lot of Americans. But yeah, I'm at a point where I kind of just giving it up on it all, the whole job pursuit and everything like that. But I'm grateful for a couple of things when it comes through this whole unemployment phase that I've been dealing with. And one of them is my mental health. I feel like, you know, my mental health has substantially gotten better now that I have my own free time, you know, and I'm not dealing with people at work. I'm not dealing with stressful bosses. My mental health is gotten so much better. I've gotten in a lot better shape. I lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. I mean, your mental health, the kind of work culture that we have in America right now, and all over the world, yes, but in our country, it's getting quite, I think the only word I can use for it is severe. Because there is no off time. Even if you're off time, you're supposed to be in, you know, group chats where all your managers can still talk to the employees. So really you're in this 24-hour work cycle, but you only get paid for the time that you're actually clocked in, unless your salary. And then if your salary, because you're working 24 hours a day, I mean, your hourly is just shit. But this is the feeling that, you know, everyone has right now. It's just kind of giving up. These jobs are just eating away at everything in our lives and barely paying anything and are cutting people off, you know, after just a few months being in. So how can you invest in your own life? I mean, how can you think about getting a mortgage or getting a car? Where the average price for a new car in America right now is like $50,000. I mean, what do you do with that? You're going to have $1,000 a month car payments. You're not even including insurance. Something that used to be a mortgage, essentially. And everyone's saying, go ahead, get into housing, you know, like put your money into something that's going to gain value. But you've got the Fed talking about there possibly being a crash in the housing market. The average home in America is $450,000, but let's be honest, it's creeping towards $500,000 unless you live in the middle of nowhere and there's no jobs that are actually worth having out there. Yeah, no wonder people are just kind of giving up. Yeah, at some point, you just got to throw your hands up and be like, listen, I've had my cars repossessed, right? I lost my home. My family's broken up. I filed bankruptcy. I mean, what's left to do other than just cut and run? You know, you get a job on like a crabbing boat or a lobster boat, something like that. Maybe get away from the legal side and go into the informal economy. I mean, because this isn't it, right? I mean, this is so impossible for people to make a living. And if you get laid off, God forbid, try to get a job. At some point, enough is just enough. But what does that mean? I mean, go homeless? Like you're forced to participate in this relentless work culture. And it just feels like it's destroying Americans. I mean, this is one gentleman, of course, but Americans all over the place. Everyone I talk to, I mean, their jobs all consuming, right? They have nothing else to do because they have no other time. So the only thing that you can actually talk to most Americans about is what? Going to restaurants, eating food, going and shopping and buying something, because that's all that we have. It's either you're working or you're spending that money. That, in essence, is what a consumer culture is. We are eaters. We are drinkers. But we are not livers. Our livers are damaged and fatty. But what are you going to do? Honestly, I mean, because you have to work, and you can't exactly just sunset yourself, you know? You can't just self-delete. You know, if you have the ability, yeah, you can leave the country, but that's if you have the ability. Granted, I argue that it takes about $1,500 to $2,000 to live very comfortably pretty much anywhere in the world outside of the United States. I've lived that life. I absolutely know. But even that is difficult. I mean, after the pandemic, we saw essentially they just did away with all the remote work, right? If you failed to come back into work, you just get fired. And that opened the veil, that lifted the veil for many people who just like saw how much they were wasting their lives and their times at their jobs. And they didn't want that anymore. And who does want that? Right? Who does want to work like this? Who does want to live a life like this where your entire meaning is to wake up in the morning, maybe have breakfast, right? Get in your car, do your commute, angry, traffic, everyone's in a rush, everyone's going fast, but at the same time they're going slow. Then you got to deal with parking, then you got to walk into the building, then you got to see the sad same faces that you see every day, people who are going through the exact same thing as you do, but we have such a fake it till you make it mindset in this country that everyone, they put on that fake smile that it's fake because their eyes are just absolutely dead and nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to be there. Then you go home, right? Then you have a sad dinner. Maybe you go out to a restaurant and you spend what is essentially 75% of the net income that you made that day on something that's going to make you feel completely like shit for the next couple days. Then you maybe have a couple drinks, then you go home, you go to bed alone because no one's getting married anymore, no one's having kids. You go to sleep and hope you don't die of sleep apnea. Then you wake up in the morning and you do the exact same thing again and again. I am not surprised, right, that we have self-deletion numbers in our country the way that it is. When the only culture that you have is a 24-hour cyclical work cycle and nothing else, what's the point? You don't exist in a culture. You don't exist in a community or a country or a state or a nation, right? You're just a bot in a machine performing a function. And for a couple hours, you get rest and then you get turned back on. God, this is why I always say, escape if you can, break away from this and actually try to live a life. If that means leveraging your income in another country where it goes a little bit farther, then enjoy that while you can before the US dollar plummets and is replaced by something else. If you can become a digital nomad and go somewhere. If you can go remote and live in the middle of Appalachia, get your nice $40,000, $50,000 home there. Is it old and smell like meth? Yes, but it's a bargain. You have to do what you have to do to keep your sanity in this country. And for a lot of people, one of the best things that they can do that will actually save their lives or give them a new perspective is for them to lose their jobs. Because I think most of us don't actually know how much we are suffering in this kind of work culture.
I feel a lot healthier. For one, I was borderline diabetic working at that previous job, but now I'm probably in the best shape of my life that I've been in compared to my 20s. Another thing is how I realize how less I need in order to get by. Like beforehand, when I was making that decent amount of money, I was buying shit that I didn't need. I was buying stuff that was not beneficial for me and my family. I just thought it was cool and I was just splurging on shit when I didn't really need it. And now, I look at stuff and I don't need that. I don't need this. So I kind of started to realize how little I actually need to get by and how enjoyable life really is with just the stuff that I need. And another big thing is the vehicles, right? Like most of the time you get a well-paying job and you want to get yourself a nice car, a nice truck. But then after you drive it for a few months, you're like, why am I indebted to this, this moving cart that takes me from point A to point B, maybe a couple of Starbucks drive-thrus here and there, and I'm paying $1,000 a month for it, maybe more. And then you include the insurance on it, you include the gas, you include maintenance on it. You're stuck in this cycle with a vehicle that you will no longer enjoy because the passion, the love for it went away after a few months. You get tired of, it's kind of like when you get a new phone, you're like, oh, this is great, I love it, and then you just get bored of it, right? The same thing with a vehicle. Like now, I'm just glad if I'm able to get a vehicle that, it's used. I don't care if it's got 100,000 miles. I pay cash for it. I will no longer ever put myself in a situation where I have to be indebted into a vehicle loan. Like right now, this vehicle is my mom's vehicle. I'm using it to drive Uber. That's what I've been doing to make income on the side is Uber. And honestly, I like it. It's actually helped me a lot with my social skills and talk to people because I was very very closed off. I don't.
I think that it's going to actually become much more popular to get used things again. Prioritize on the economical and something that actually serves a purpose instead of just going for the extravagant and the lavish. Because like I said, our whole fake it till you make it mindset, for some reason, right? The more money you get, the more bills you get. I never understood that, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much money I make, I will always have kind of a bit of a poverty mindset, which I know people say, hey, it's not good, but makes me, really kind of fiscally responsible, I guess. But I think that it's going to become much more popular. I actually think that if we're looking at car culture, right? New cars are such shit that they break down constantly, right? I have a 2025 CRV touring, whatever. And we had to take it in last month because there was something wrong with the left front end. I mean, the thing is basically off the assembly line, right? It shouldn't have any problems. I think that we're going to see a resurgence in people trying to get used cars. I think the used car market's going to grow. I think that I think that there's going to be new car culture. Like, I remember in the early 2000s, you had, Fast and Furious come out. So everyone was trying to put rice cans on their Honda Civic. Sounded terrible. But everyone wanted that, foreign, exotic, super fast thing. But now nobody knows anything about cars because you can't fix them. You can't do anything to them. They're not meant to be modded. So it'd be interesting to see if kind of that older garage car culture kind of came back. And I think I would like that.
Have a lot of conversations with people. I'm terrible at small talks, and that set me back a lot in my career and what I wanted to do. But Uber's actually helped me out a lot to talk to people, talk to strangers, and get to know them and stuff like that. And I set my own hours, and yeah, it's not great money, right? You're not going to be able to sustain yourself in the long run with this. But I think if something's out there for me that's going to get me back on my feet and I'm going to recover from all this, it's eventually going to happen, right? But the days of applying to 100 plus jobs a day and just not getting anything, I'm done with that. I'm done wasting my time with that. I'm done revisiting my resume over and over again for different jobs. I'm done doing fucking tests, like the test that you get after you apply to a job for simple retail positions. Like that is absolutely absurd to me, that I have to sit there and spend 3 hours doing a fucking test where I might not even get hired, and you don't even get paid for that time, which I think is stupid. Like, companies, if they're going to give you a test for a job, they should pay you.
See, I think we have too many qualified candidates right now. I think that that's really the biggest problem. And if we look at the jobs data over, the past few months, what we've seen is job loss, not job gain. We live in an economy where if you're well off, if you're wealthy, you're doing great. And if you're not, you're not. But this reminds me of like when I was in the Philippines. And essentially you had to have a college degree just to work at 7-Eleven. The less jobs that we have in America and the more qualified people that we have, the higher the requirements are going to come for those jobs. So I think what we're really seeing now is kind of the beginning to all this. The economy, how it works, hasn't really been affected by this as much as it is going to be in the future. Because the less people that are working, the less money there is in the system, there's less money being spent. But I guess if we think about it, does that actually matter? If 50% of the population isn't working, let's just say, they don't have an income, they're not spending money, will the economy die? Right? You would think it would, right? But the top 10% of this country contribute to like 90% of the spending because they're the only people with money and they have a lot of it, right? There's something like the top 100 families in America have something like $6.6 trillion worth of wealth when there's barely $3 trillion for the other 99% of the country to fight over. There's just not enough money in the system. And the jobs aren't paying. And there's not enough jobs. And you can't start your own business now. So yeah, people are just kind of giving up on this. Because at some point you got to throw your hands up and be like, F this. I'm not just going to, be on a treadmill my entire life, earning money from someone else and then always be at risk for them to throw me to the side. And even the paycheck they do give me doesn't give me anything. I don't know. If you're still here at this point, ladies and gentlemen, like and subscribe. Tell me what you think about the job market right now. We're going into the holiday season. This is typically a time where people will take on second jobs to save up for presents. But with there not being enough jobs out there, I feel like this is going to be a pretty lean Christmas when it comes to spending. And of course, when the news of that comes out in January or February, that's going to make the market go down even more, which they'll say, hey, let's just cut some more rates, which means more inflation, and at the same time probably lose more jobs. So, we really feel like we're spiraling here in America right now, especially when it comes to the job market. But ladies and gents, if you're still out there, right, if you're not working, tell us how it's going for you. Put it in the comment section. Let us know how long you've been at it, how many apps you're throwing out there. If you've gotten a job recently, tell us about it. Like, how long did it take you to get it? Was there anything that set you apart that maybe could help other people? Because, from what I've read in the comment sections of videos like this I've made before, there's quite a few of you out there that have been having a hard time. If there's anything that we can do to help each other, let's do that. But we fixed the Discord. If you want to hop over there and chat it up, that link should work. If it doesn't, go ahead and let me know. Think about becoming a member, giving a donation to the channel. It always helps, of course. Some big things happening over the next few days. For reasons, we are going to Florida for a bit. And yeah, so let us know what you think. Probably make a couple videos on the way down there. If there's anything that you want me to make videos about during the trip down there, it should take about 3 days, go ahead and let me know, and I'll do what I can. But we appreciate you guys as always. Have a freaking good one.